Hello and welcome to the episode 8 recap of the Courtship. First of all, thank you for all of your comments. It's been so interesting to see that Captain Kim was quite the divisive character, although we all seem rather united in the opinion that this Mr. Lincoln Chapman thing is not going anywhere. A lot of people, including me, are still holding out hope for Mr. Hunter, and Mr. Judge gets a lot of love too in the comments, but people are pretty much done with Charlie Mumbry, Danny, and Mr. Holland. Anyway, on to episode 8. So remember that last week nobody was sent home, so we're likely going to get some goodbyes this week. Miles and Charlie are kind of competing, being the two Brits, and while I've rather come to like Charlie, yeah, there's no competition here because there is no sizzle there with Charlie, whereas Miles does have a certain sex appeal and an easier chemistry with Nicole. Nicole's parents are back this week, and there will be a big formal fancy dinner, and a few of the suitors will be invited to play some parlor games afterwards. Honestly, I'm glad that her parents are back. They're so wholesome, and they have actual opinions on the suitors and make an effort to get to know them, unlike Nicole's best friend, who's just kind of there. Even Nicole's brother has made the effort to get to know some of the guys, and it's nice to see them interact. I do wish Nicole's sister, sweet as she is, would be a little bit more involved like she was in the beginning, but I suppose they're just giving Nicole her space to make her decisions and do her thing. As they were all taking their seats at the dinner, there was a noticeably cute and warm greeting between Mrs. Remy, Nicole's mother, and Mr. Hunter. I mean, everybody was greeting everyone, but this was just a sweet scene because she had been away and there was a polite familiarity there, and remember, Mr. Hunter was one of Nicole's parents' favorites. Mr. Cohn stands up and makes a really awkward toast, interrupting Mr. Remy's toast. He's not being rude, you know, the way Danny was rude when he interrupted that dinner that he was invited to. It was just mostly awkward. Miles stands up then and makes a little speech in French to Nicole's parents. They do get along pretty well, quickly and easily. The minute he starts talking French though, Charlie's like, oh my god, with a bit of an eye roll, and honestly, kind of same Charlie. But you can't deny that Miles is very much at home in these settings. He is the guy whose company that you'd like at a fancy dinner with your parents. Danny B offers to carve the chicken even though he's pescatarian. He does an excellent job. Nicole's best friend looks a little bit more cheerful than usual, but I do wish that we could see more of the interactions with them, because where is this warmth around Nicole? I don't get their friendship, but I suppose we're not really here for that. Lincoln chats with Nicole's brother and he asks about when he knew when he was in love. He then mentions in his confessional to us that his time at the castle is the longest that he's been in one place in 2 years. I know he's mentioned this before as well, that he travels in his van a lot and he's careful about falling in love and changing his lifestyle only to become resentful down the line. Miles and Nicole get along very well, and he's really likable when he doesn't seem to be trying too hard, when he doesn't have the big grand gestures. He's not my guy, but he's very cute here. There are a lot of laughs and flirts, and Charlie also kind of joins in. Nicole then invites 4 suitors to the parlor game after dinner. Lincoln Chapman, Charlie Mumbry, Danny New York, and Miles. Ugh, Nicole, what is this? Mr. Judge and Hunter are left behind again, and so is Mr. Cohn's, which is disappointing. I feel like Lincoln didn't need to be there because she spent enough time with him to know that she likes him and she wants him. Miles too, the chemistry is there, he's not going home anytime soon. It would have been nice to see her spend time with the other guys. Anyway, they play Never Have I Ever and a lot goes on, but mostly Lincoln admits that he fears commitment. Nicole is upset about this because she says that she was intimate with him and now it's like he's getting all nervous about commitment. Nicole and her mom later have a talk and her mom reiterates that Mr. Hunter is her favorite. Nicole opens up about not quite getting there with Mr. Holland. Meanwhile, Mr. Holland sees her as the one. He's just too intense. The activity of the day is clay pigeon shooting, and Mr. Hunter decides that he needs to step up his game today. We find out that Mrs. Remy is an excellent shot. It's very cool and impressive to see, even if you don't care about clay pigeon shooting. Nicole was a little bit annoying here because as the guys are trying to aim and shoot, she would ask them questions with the intention of trying to trip them up, and it ruined the game for me a bit in a way. This is a very insignificant complaint though. Mr. Hunter then decides to go and see Nicole at the castle, bouquet of flowers in hand. Sorry, he's kind of perfect. His name is Dan, by the way. She asks him about his past dating life and he seems to have these walls up. He's interested in her, but we still need to know a little bit about his dating history. And he admits in his confessional that he does have some trouble opening up initially with people. I don't really blame him because Nicole hasn't been singling him out for attention. There hasn't been much indication from her for a while that she's seriously interested. It could just be a missed opportunity thing though. Anyway, I hope that the thing that Mr. Hunter is holding back on isn't shady. I hope he's just a divorcee or something. Lincoln says that he doesn't really want to change his lifestyle too much much. I already mentioned this back when he told Nicole that he lived in a van the first time. Nicole is a software engineer, so she's in the tech corporate space. I see her going on an adventurous van vacation, but yeah, she's not going to be living in a van, come on. She told Danny last week as well that she has a 2-bedroom townhouse or loft or something, and she presumably works every day. I don't know what he actually does apart from the modeling and being in a traveling band, but a lot of you guys in the comments think that he's kind of unemployed, so yeah. Christian Cohn goes to spend some time with Nicole, and he tells her that he's serious about this, about her, and he also tells her that he considers himself sexually fluid. He says that he wants to love who he loves. He's pretty clear that he could also be into a dude. He's pretty unambiguous about it, which I appreciate about him. Nicole, as usual, is very gracious. She says that one day when she has kids, she wouldn't want them to have to even feel like they have to have the coming out conversation. She would just love for them to be comfortable with who they are and be who they are. She has no issues with Cohn's sexuality, and she loves that he's so open and accepting. Kudos to Nicole, because the way she responded to him was really heartfelt, and Cohn says that it was one of the best conversations about this that he's ever had. He's also really expressive and open around her, and you can just see on his face that he's a bit smitten. Anyway, finally, it's time for the farewell dance. Mr. Chapman is on the cards. He says in his confessional that he's slowly falling in love. Charlie Mumbry, Mr. Holland, and Mr. Hunter. I think Holland is going home tonight, or Chapman. I don't even know if we know Mr. Holland's real name. Nicole tells Charlie that they're more in the friend zone, and she doesn't really know if the romantic connection is there. They say their goodbyes. It was actually really sweet, and even though he was never going to be the one, he was just kind of nice to have around, and I wouldn't have minded seeing more of his baking, to be honest. Mr. Holland and Nicole dance, and he's intense. Not Danny intense. Like, he's still respectful, but he's all in already, which is odd because they haven't spent that much time together. She says that she doesn't think that they're compatible. I know that a lot of you in the comments will be glad to see him go because he is a father of a 1-year-old, and people weren't quite feeling that. Not on a show with so many other unattached potential suitors. Not to be shady, but I also can imagine his daughter must miss him at this point, so it's time for him to go home. This does turn out to be a surprisingly emotional farewell though, and all the suitors come down to say goodbye to him. Even Mr. Hunter sheds a tear. The guys do have a really good kind of friendship or bond though, and this has been nice to see. I know he wasn't our guy, but this was a really nice send-off. Nicole then tells Mr. Hunter and Chapman that she wants them to stay. She and Mr. Hunter embrace, and I don't know why, but something about it made me feel like he might be the one. Something about that embrace. We're gonna put a pin in it, or I'm projecting. Then Lincoln tells her that he's falling for her. Nicole tells us in her confessional that she feels like she could reciprocate this, and she acknowledges that he's the first person to say this to her. This guy needs to tell her that he doesn't want a long-term commitment though. He keeps saying that he'll have the conversation, and then he kind of pulls Nicole in a little more deeper emotionally. And honestly, I believe him. I believe that he is genuinely falling for her. I'm just not cynical enough to believe that he's playing. I just need him to tell her because she's pretty decisive, and if they're not on the same wavelength about the future, she will cut him loose. Anyway, that's it for episode 8. As usual, feel free to share your comments, and thank you for watching.